Here we Okay, great. And now I'm going to start sharing. Okay, so as you know, phase three and today is March 12th, and so we're gonna go quickly to the next part. Just reminding folks that the fund has always been focusing on Black, Indigenous, people of color, artists and culture bearers, arts organizers, and their broader communities. Anyone can be a part of it, but the focus is BIPOC communities. How did we get here? So both of you have participated in different parts of it. Phase one was when Maria and Dela and I gathered people for various circles. Maybe there was 2 sessions, 2 weekend sessions. People offered ideas on what to do. They then offered feedback on the ideas that we gave them. So that was phase one. Phase two was the grant making. So actually implementing some of those suggestions and so on. And that ended up in $501,500 invested in Vallejo through phase two. Phase three came about because that grant is not over yet, the $500,000 grant. So Hewlett can't even decide to do it again because they have not met their term yet. So, but, we were in talking to Hewlett, one of the things that we learned in running this program was the amount of need for capacity building. There's a lot of artists that were interested in building their artistry. There was a lot of folks that were interested in connecting and building connective tissue. A lot of people interested in applying to grants, but a lot of folks didn't have the skill sets or the understanding of the sector, or we saw some of that through the applications, of course, how people even talked about themselves when we had seen their art and we had met them, and then we would see them on paper and there was no, yeah, exactly. And so we shared that with Hewlett, and so Hewlett said, oh, okay, what we can do is offer a capacity building monies to keep you going until we decide if we're going to grant again. And the idea has always been for us to find a way to be less present, and so that actual Vallejoans are the ones leading this, right? And so this is sort of the first one was really about talking to community and engaging community. And this one we said, well, no, we should really have folks on the ground that are responsible for some of these pieces that we're working with and that have a lot of experience. So that's how we got here. Any questions on how we got to this capacity building stage? All right. So just again, the 5 categories of grants from phase two. And then, so capacity building for us, that means skill and knowledge building from how do I write an artist statement to how do I apply to a grant? Which grants am I qualified for? What goes in a grant? What kind of writing do they want? Those kinds of things that are sort of opaque. And so a lot of people don't have exposure to it. Professional developments, a lot of folks talked about, can we get together? Can we see each other once a month? Can we have sessions, a day with 3 different sessions that are targeting different pieces of development? And so I would share all this stuff in detail, of course, with the folks that are selected to be part of it, but I just want to give you an idea of what it is. And of course, the last piece is the connections. Like I said, there's networks and communities that work alongside, but haven't even met. A lot of folks that we engaged were like, I didn't know you were an artist. I didn't know you also did this. Wait, you live in Vallejo? So we also noticed that folks, even though it's a tight community, folks have not had the opportunities to really engage with each other around their artist and cultural work. Um, all right, so here it is, phase 3. So phase 3 is scheduled to go from May to December. It's not all programming, but that includes the report writing, the and so on, the launch and whatnot. But that's the time, the term, May 1st to December 1st. There's 2 scopes of work. One is a capacity building implementation consultant, and the other one is the program services consultant, right? And so one is really holding a lot of the logistical pieces and supporting that work, and the other person is kind of holding a lot of the coaching and supporting and resource connecting. They work together, of course, and they both hold things together, but that's kind of the distinction, right? So for the implementation consultant, we're really looking for someone that can steer the whole program, um, that understands the artistry and cultural work in Vallejo and Vallejo, that has sort of like Beatrice and you and I were talking, and also Irma, you mentioned this, has connections, has been doing this for a while, is able to connect folks to maybe people they didn't know or resources they didn't know that were available. And then, of course, some event and activity oversight. So if there's some programming. In this last piece, there's actually more money in the budget that these people would be managing we think that part of the capacity building should be sharing the story of Vallejo, right? Of the artists in Vallejo. Is that would help anyone to be able to understand what's happening there, right? So part of this would be sharing some of the work of the people that receive grants, and part of it is sharing just work of Vallejoans that are part of this capacity building project. So I've said a lot and probably not enough. I hope that do you both have the links to the documents?
Yes, I have one of them, the one that I'm interested in. I have that
Okay,
open. Yeah, I
great.
have the RFP open.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next one, and I'm going to pause for questions. And we can talk. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this one. I apologize. And then I'll pause, and then I'll go to the next one, and then I'll pause for questions. Um, one of the things that we sort of wanted to highlight a few items in each RFP. And for the capacity building implementation consultant, I mentioned the idea of steering and managing this work, and being a resource. But we also want to talk a little bit about the qualifications. So someone in this role would have experience in building relationships with people in Vallejo, with a diversity of communities, experience in anybody that's ever worked in community knows that it's incredibly rewarding, but there's also challenges and there's conflict, and it's just part of the process. And so this would be someone needs to be able to hold that and understand that it's going to come up and we'll resolve it and so on. And then these folks also need to be proficient in Google. That's what we've been using, and Canva. So just able to take on whatever we've built and continue to move it. Um, the work for both of these positions is not going to be um, sort of consistent or evenly spread out. It will depend on the programming, right? So there might be a week where it's a little bit busier, and then 3 weeks or 2 weeks where there's not a lot going on. Maybe you're catching up on other stuff and so on. And we're really hoping that this is someone from Vallejo. Both of these scopes of work are from folks that are rooted in Vallejo and ready to sort of meet the challenges and the opportunities and support BIPOC artists for this next step. So for the program services consultant, you'll see there's also the scope of work includes community engagement. So this person will also be engaged in so many ways with folks across Vallejo, but also would have a real sense of how to keep it organized, how to let people know what's happening, um, you know, is able to collaborate with the implementation consultant, with maybe other folks in Vallejo to put on a project or a program or help at an event, whatever it is that we're putting together. And, the collaboration piece is also because we know that this will require bringing other folks in. So being able to collaborate with other consultants, maybe you bring in someone that's going to do a particular series. And so being able to work with that person and help them get set up and have a space and feel like they're prepared to actually do what they want to, what they want to do, how they want to engage the Vallejo community. And then qualifications, similarly, someone that is able to collaborate, that has experience, event planning, coordination, strong organizational skills, and also, able to uh, um, work across difference and bring people together and sort of hold the larger goal as we navigate the smaller things that come up on the daily when you're working on these things. And we don't think everyone needs to be an artist to apply to these positions, but certainly has some experience in that world and understands the challenges and opportunities, especially in the city. So I'm going to pause there and I'm going to ask if either of you have any questions about either scope, any doubts that you have or anything that you're wondering.
I'm wondering if I understand this correctly, that the program services consultant, from my understanding, it seems like they would be doing more of the legwork of things, like you said, the coordination, the helping with the planning and so forth, whereas the other position would be more so on the setting it up, and the person does, like you said, the legwork on things. It's more, like you said, the planning, the logistics of things, and so forth. So is that is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. There would be some overlap, but yes,
Yeah.
the implementation person will be coaching folks potentially, or
Okay.
uh, helping with resource connections, or maybe convening, right? Let's bring people together. Not that the two folks can't do it together or any
Right.
of that, but at some point there'll probably have to be a division around labor, and so. So that's exactly what we're talking about, Irma. And you said something that reminded me. um, I'm sorry. Yeah, but we see them as very related, but two separate sort of areas of work. And these two folks would not be working by themselves. They'll be working with me and Allison. So uh, it's in some ways the two folks on the ground are the lead and we're supporting. We might be meeting with you or checking in with you weekly or bi-weekly. For example, the first event that we're launching, that will not be you all, that will be us, but while we set it up, it'll be the onboarding to these folks so that there can be part of the process already in putting something together. And so the first event is May 11th, and it's basically going to be a convening and an announcement. Um, yeah. Any other questions or?
So that May 11th event would be more so like an example, sort of
Yeah.
similar to what might be going
Yes.
with.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and these folks would not be responsible for it. Of course, they'll be supporting, but they
To
won't be responsible to put it together or any of that.
just to get an idea as to what's the expectations of going
Exactly.
forward. Okay. Okay. And
And
that's great.
also getting those folks to meet other folks that we know and sort of begin that process.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
So
Um,
the implementation you mentioned, I'm sorry if I'm the
no, no.
implementation you mentioned that it's very important for them to have the connections in the community and some resources already. And so and then the program services consultant, obviously they would have some as well to contribute.
Yes,
However, it's like it weighs heavier, more reliant upon the implementation. That's all.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And that's part of what you might see in the difference in the stipend. We know that for one person, we're asking for more experience and resources and ability to connect folks. So that's why it's a little bit higher, even though they're both stipends. You
You're right. Okay.
know. Any questions on your side, Beatrice?
Yes, I I mean I think that questions, but not so much questions, but just hearing more about the kinds of activities that I think that you have done. There's been studies and you've communicated with the community, and there were activities that maybe have already surfaced around what the implementation person in the capacity building activities might be. I'm just curious to hear.
Thank you for that. 100%. That was the thing that slipped my mind earlier. Yes, we have a couple of surveys. We have notes from a few meetings. We have a good amount of data around what people have been telling us they want. And so part of what we're going to do together is look at that and say, okay, so looking at this, how might we implement some of these needs? What might they look like? Who might we connect or engage? So yeah, that's part of the onboarding process is going to be looking at that data.
And and
Uh-huh.
and just I'm just affirming, or I'm looking to be affirmed that really what I am hearing is that this is a co-creation. Ultimately, the research has been done, but and now we have, you are pulling together a team to manifest the capacity building that the community requested, right?
Exactly, exactly. And
Claro.
and part of the work of these two folks is going to be to continue to ask, right? So part of that might be evaluation after an activity, see what folks thought, or asking them a particular series. I imagine things are going to come up, and part of it is going to come up from the people that are going to do this work based on their experience, based on what they know, based on who they know. So there is room for um, adaptation and different possibilities and so on. I think I do want to say one of the things that we've learned is, when you start something like this, you want to do it all. You want to, you're like, yes, millions of dollars and so I say that because these scopes of work are pretty detailed. There's a lot of information in there. And there is no way you can do all that, right? So we're going to be selective around what are the pieces that can be completed in those 7 months or 6 months. Um, what can actually be done? There's also going to be a budget of 20 some thousand dollars for programming. So like if space rental or food or high, also a little bit more in consultant money, like monies to pay some consultants to come in. And again, we would like to do folks from Vallejo, right? That maybe already know these things and no one knows that they do or they haven't been connected. And so this is an opportunity to also build that connective tissue. Any other
I have
questions?
one,
Mm-hmm.
yes, one last question, which is if you would tell me about the storytelling piece of
That was gonna be my
the
question too. Yeah, exactly. What's
same,
Yes, yes.
same way.
Great. So storytelling piece, again, something that we're gonna co-collaborate with these folks on. And the storytelling piece, one of the things that we really felt deeply was that there was so much in Vallejo and Vallejo, there was so much, and there's only certain stories that get told about artists in Vallejo. Some of them tend to be in the hip hop scene with a couple of main names, and also like other Santana. But there's no real understanding about all the other artistry that is happening in the city, that is happening from BIPOC communities, that is trying to change culture. So the idea is, as part of the capacity building, can we develop some sort of communication system around, or some sort of campaign or something around art in Vallejo, right? And around culture in Vallejo. It can be, and we have, that's a separate pot of money. We put aside around $10,000 because we know that might cost a little bit more. It can be social media campaign, right? It can be video, interview some folks. It could be a little small short. Um, so you know, I think there's a lot of possibilities, but the idea for me, the outcome would be, how is Vallejo's BIPOC arts and culture communities much more visible 7 months from now? How do we begin to tell that story? Again, we can't do it all. We would need years, but how do we begin to sort of share more with funders, with other, you know, so that there's other possibilities of investment? Does that clarify?
I love it. Yes, it's beautiful. It's like the foundation. The foundation work is like important work. It may be pouring cement and hauling rocks and like prepping the yard, but it is, I mean, it's good work, right? Like, so I
Yeah.
appreciate the seeing how the phases have unfolded.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that it resonates, and I also saw Irma nodding, so I'm glad that it resonates. Yes. And I don't want to keep you too long, so I just want to go over this last piece, and then any final questions. The application is due March 27th, as we mentioned earlier. And as you see here, I don't know if Beatrice, you can see, but Irma, as you see here, the event is May 11th, the one that we will be. And so these consultants would be selected probably by the end of April, and then would begin onboarding that first week and a half of May. Not full days or anything, but we would have a couple of meetings in preparation for May 11th. So sort of on, you know, on the spot kind of training and so on. And really dialogue, because I feel like part of what Allison and I are going to get is we're going to learn also a lot from these folks that come in. And I'll pause there for any other questions, comments, anything else.
I had a question on that. You mentioned that there will be times where there may not be a whole lot of activities to the point where they may be quite involved. Now, what is the expectation as far as time frame? Are most of these activities daytime, evening time? Or what the activity is? You can speak on that.
Yeah. I think there will probably be a diversity of times. I'm sure there would be some weekend, thinking about when people might be available, I think is really so, but part of the diversity of
Okay.
of times. Um, and I think that part of what that we would do with these two folks is like look at the budget, look at the 7 months, and then begin to sort of parse out what's possible and go from there so that it's also manageable. And there'll probably be other folks that might volunteer or help out in other ways. So I'm just saying, I guess maybe I'm responding to something that you didn't even ask.
No, 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 yeah, I guess it's just like an overall, is there an expectations over overall number of hours, that somebody has in mind that they should at least minimum have put in this much many hours of work throughout this whole time period. Of course, it
Yeah,
might exceed that, but it just, to get a time frame that this is what the expectation may be,
yeah,
maybe just to have an idea as to what that would be and exactly see if it's, it's a manageable thing or not.
yes, that's a great question. Um, yeah, we were thinking that it would be around 400 to something hours. It could be about 60 some hours a month, maybe. Um, if that, and it is a stipend, right?
Right,
We might ask these folks to just keep track of hours just so we know, so we have data.
right,
But yeah, it's more that. And but Irma, I think you're onto something in um things might take less or more time, right?
right.
Yeah, so yes, thank you for that. But I think part of what Allison and I learned is that self-care and
Yeah.
like a reasonable amount of things is good for everybody. Good for everybody.
Okay. No, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing, but okay, so Beatrice says she is moving. I'm gonna marinate and great. And so so yeah, thank you, Beatrice, and thank you, Irma. Happy to answer any other questions for you, Irma. Beatrice, were you gonna say anything?
Oh, I was just going to say thank you, and that it's just great to hear, and yeah, it's just wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you, and look forward to seeing you hopefully in a help desk. Have a good evening.
Indeed. Take care. Bye, Irma.
Bye. Good meeting you.
Great to meet you.
Yeah.
Irma, any other
No,
questions?
I did sign up for the help desk.
Oh, okay.
There was a conflict. They were double booked, so I'm just waiting to hear back what times are available now. So, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
That's
But
right.
I'm rather flexible as far as time. So, yeah, no, I'm excited about it. When I read about it, it spoke to me.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I said, no, I'm excited about it. I'm working on getting my letter recommendations. So I've asked people for, ready. So can I use you as a reference? Yeah.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. That's so great. That's so great to hear. And if anything comes up, please reach out. We're happy I know we said no emails or whatever, but that was just till we got to this. Like we wanted to,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. No, appreciate. I'm sure that, yeah, I'll hold my any questions for the help desk, and if anything after that, then I'll try not to. But yeah.
All right. All
But
right.
thank
Well,
you so much for your time. This really helped a lot, to
okay,
see.
good. Thank you, Roman. Have a good evening, and
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll see you
yeah,
around.
yeah, yeah. All right. Nice
Bye.
meeting you. Thank you.
Meeting you.
All right, bye.
Bye.